Wanted to talk about something that you just achieved, which a lot of founders with Startups.com looking for. You were able to secure funding. So give us the update on where you are as far as raising funds.
So I came to startups earlier part of this year to, kind of help guide me. I want to talk about my previous journey because I was convinced that I had to raise like $2.5 million and have a seed round for my startup if I was going to get VC to ever pay attention to me.
Sure.
And one of the first things that you taught me as well as Will and everyone was, first of all, you need to find your space. Where are you? And I was in a basically VC, friends and family, developing my MVP. I needed to really figure out how much money I needed to kind of get the, outside of my bootstrapping, what was I going to need? So we did solidify a $300,000 VC round. Initially, we had gone after about 500,000, but we felt that 300 was getting us started. And so we kind of closed the round off a little bit early with a single investor. And we've had some growing pains. We're new to this too. We did solidify a $300,000 round. We see kind of a friends and family type acquisition of funds.
Let's talk about what that process looked like, because you and I, we have gone back and forth on your deck, your value proposition, the languaging. What's great about you, Ken, is like you really attacked it. Like you attacked your pitch deck, went back and forth, and you really took ownership of it. So how did you get to the point where you had a pitch deck, you worked with us, and then get to that investor? What was that journey like?
Well, one of the things that really helped while we were working on the deck was you were coaching me as well as Will on keeping it very simple. Stop looking at it from me trying to, give 1,000 words about what my product's doing. Is keep it very simple and make sure that I tighten up the message so that the people that I do give this to can understand something in a very quick amount of time because they all have ADD. And so once I had my deck kind of tightened up and everything, I went out to just everybody that would listen to me. If I knew somebody that, was, toward retirement, they had maybe some money, laying aside, they like to travel, they like to gamble, things. I talked to anybody that would listen to me. I also sent it out to, micro VCs, VCs. I started targeting statewide family offices. And it was actually a family office that I discovered with an acquaintance of mine through previous business, through a restaurant that I had opened, that led me to my current investor. And he is a first time angel as well. So we're kind of going through this whole growing thing together. But we started the journey and he ran me through the gauntlet, interviewing with his corporate lawyer, with his, a friend of his that was an entrepreneur, another family member that has his own trust that he runs for a family office. I had to do 5 different presentations, and each one of those people had a different need to listen to my pitch. And one of the things that convinced him to invest in me was the fact that I could talk to 5 different types of individuals
Oh, yeah.
about my organization.
Yeah.
So that right there, I would have never been able to do that had I not gone through the arduous task of whittling down my slide deck to be as simple as possible. And, even as small as just like the key statements at the top of a slide.
Yeah.
It's not all they're going to read. And if they see something there that may interest them, they'll go to the bottom of the slide. But you're only going to get that attention if you really focus on what is this slide about. That was another big thing that my old slide decks never had was, what's the title of my slide? Couldn't believe how simple that. I asked for the feedback from these people that I was giving the presentation to, and I was like, what caught your eye? And they're like, well, the fact that you're talking about, what's the problem statement? And I knew you were talking about the problem statement. That really helped me to understand that this is a very important slide to me. So,
Yeah.
so that was another great help.
I love hearing that, Ken. I appreciate you just being open and transparent about it, because I think sometimes founders, they listen to us, and in the back of my mind, I'm thinking to myself, are these founders just thinking, well, Ed's just talking out of his ear because he thinks he's the expert? But to hear someone like you take what we teach and say, no, this is real. This actually works out in the wild. I was able to raise $300,000. That's great. How many people did you go through? How many contacts? How many emails? Like, what was that like?
Hundreds, definitely, and not just like 100. I'm talking about, 300 or 400 potentials, just mass emails out to try to get to the screeners. I was on other boards, similar to startups, Y Combinator, things like that. I actually found my fractional CTO through Y Combinator, as a potential co-founder, but we focus more on that. But I was out everywhere. And until I got here at Startups, and you guys really kind of coached me on focus. Didn't have that guidance before, but I was able to really kind of target. First 200 were kind of like practice, Once I just kept sending it out. You actually told me to keep sending it out to people, and eventually it's going to catch someone's eye, and that was 100% factual because eventually I was able to tighten up my emails and target the right people. And really go after those, the micro VCs. And I utilize the listing from startups, with the potential investors and things like that. But you guys also coached me back into my friends and family round, which is where I really kind of should have been the whole time.
Yeah.
in that pre-seed, because I needed to get those initial investors there. Because the one thing I ran into when I was talking with the people that actually did respond, which I was getting maybe about a 10%, 15% rejection rate, which is actually good because I was actually getting feedback that no, we're not interested at this time, that type of thing. It helped me really realize that I needed to get my first investor before I got my second investor. And
Yes.
if you can get that first investor on, that's the most critical thing, because nobody wanted to be my first.
No, never.
And that was my biggest struggle. And I was just like, why can't somebody just give me, a $50,000 investment, out of my 500,000, just, that 10%, whatever the valuation, is, why can't I get that? Nobody wants to be the first. Once you get the first one, then you have people that are like, oh, now I'm interested because, you're actually, somebody wants you. So you're a little bit prettier, you're a little bit, more attractive to that individual. So that was definitely a big learning curve for me. But again, it's just getting it out there, and maybe it could be the time of the year that people are on vacations. There are so many moving factors. You just have to just stay at it and just keep going. So if I truly had to estimate, I probably did maybe between 500 and 700 touches with my slide deck, and I probably did 30 to 40 really good presentations before I actually got to my investor. And then he made me go through 5 or 7 more presentations before he said, "Okay, I'm willing to give you a check." It's a never ending, it's just like sales. It's all about
Yes.
numbers. You have to put yourself out there. And now I'm actually going back out for a little bit more funding to kind of stretch this a little bit further into the round. I'm probably going to reopen that other 200
Yep.
that's out there, just to have a little bit more diversity with the funding, and to maybe get a little bit more efficient as opposed to my early roadmap. So it's just learning.
Okay. Let's break down some of the principles here. Let's stay on this topic because you brought up some real gems. First of all, is that first pickle out of the jar. What all the founders, and I see the names of the founders, and I think most of you are raising money. Something that we can take away from Ken, and it's a general rule of thumb. When he says investors don't want to be first, it's totally the case. If an investor says, well, find a lead investor and then we'll come on, they're saying we don't want to be first. We want someone else to do the heavy lifting and do the due diligence, and then we'll come on board. What happens is nobody wants to be first, but they definitely don't want to be last. So as soon as you get that first one, everybody says, hey, can I follow on? And that's the reason you may want to give better terms for that first investment. I know founder, I think he's raised, last I checked, it was like $2.5 million. It's probably $5 million right now. And he used Reg CF, and he got a first institutional investor. He gave a 50% discount on his first $50,000. And that's okay. You can do that. You can have different terms for different types of investors, because you can reward the people who come on first, right? Reward them, make them feel great, and you never know, they might come on again. Here's the second thing that Ken brought up, and I want all the founders to hear this, is investors will do all sorts of types of due diligence. I was working with a founder last year. She got into an angel group, and the founder said, we want to bring you 3 of our customers, and you try to sell them. And if you can sell them, and they set up all the meetings, and they wanted to know. And then they asked for references. Can we talk to your customers and interview them? We're going to bring an associate. They had them fly into a different spot, and they brought in another partner. It was complete crazy making. But remember, it's a team sport. I've never, unless I'm an angel investor, if I'm writing a bigger check than 5 figures, guess what? I'm going to involve as many people as possible. And so if you got like a technical aspect of it, I'll bring in somebody technical and say, pitch them. I usually had an investment committee, and they would say, great, we appreciate the first thing, like the pitch deck. Now work out some numbers, get more pitches going. That's the socialization component. So what Ken just talked about is very true. You want to be ready, and that's the reason we put you through the gauntlet in terms of getting ready to be able to talk about it.